The White House is whitewashing history, and you need to know what is happening at the Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C., and across the country. While Donald Trump is sending National Guard troops into Washington, D.C., and the Epstein files are the talk of the town, the White House is quietly working to determine whether exhibits in Smithsonian museums across the country comply with Donald Trump's vision of history. Yes, I am serious. They are modifying exhibitions, changing diagrams, essentially getting Smithsonian museums prepared for America's 250th anniversary, which is next year. But while doing so, they are working with the White House to essentially emphasize Donald Trump's interpretation of American history, emphasizing, quote, unity, progress, and enduring values under his executive order, which requires all federal agencies to restore truth and sanity to American history. Now, let me tell you something about this. Why is this so nerve wracking for a lot of people? Because just recently, the Smithsonian, after it was under significant fire, restored a part of an impeachment exhibit that mentioned Donald Trump's impeachments. But before that, it was fully okay with removing Donald Trump's impeachments from an impeachment exhibit that featured the impeachments of all past presidents, including Richard Nixon and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Yet, the Smithsonian still removed Trump's impeachments because, according to the Smithsonian, at least at the time, Trump's impeachments were not likely to result in a conviction. Well, here's the thing, folks. That was under pressure from the White House. And the White House is now again launching pressure on the Smithsonian, but this time the Smithsonian is going to be working with this White House to whitewash American history, to change exhibitions, and to show Americans visiting museums something different than what is real and truthful. And that's why media right now is more important than ever. So please consider supporting my work by subscribing to my Substack, clicking the button below, or sending a one time donation via Venmo to Aaron Parnas. And speaking about truth and trust in government, remember Donald Trump's new nominee to be the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the agency responsible for putting out job numbers? Well, now EJ Antoni, who was a contributor to Project 2025, a fellow at the Heritage Foundation, he is now saying that he may suspend releasing job report numbers on a monthly basis in favor of, quote, more accurate, though less timely, quarterly data until the reliance and the accuracy improves in monthly data. Essentially, Donald Trump called this information rigged. He said that the job numbers that showed that his administration was not producing as many new jobs as he wanted weren't accurate. And now his new nominee, well, he doesn't want to release them anymore. Once again, the media is important. Now, today I was in Washington, D.C. all day, roaming the streets, trying to figure out whether the National Guard was actually going to be deployed or whether or not this was some type of charade from the Trump administration. But we are learning now that the National Guard has begun arriving in Washington, D.C. There are photos of National Guard's troops outside of kind of the headquarters for the Guard in D.C. near the D.C. Armory. In addition, DEA Chief Terry Cole, who was appointed by Donald Trump to lead the federal takeover of the city, announced that starting this evening, federal agents will be, quote, embedded with the Metropolitan Police Department, working jointly on patrols and increasing activity in targeted sectors to address violent crime. Now, five Homeland Security investigations officers were seen already patrolling outside of Union Station Metro in DC this afternoon. One officer said, according to NBC News, that their presence was there to increase visibility in response to Trump's directive for high traffic areas, not for a specific incident. ICE conducted raids in Washington, D.C. this morning, detaining at least 7 people at a Home Depot and carrying out additional raids in Mount Pleasant. And White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said about 850 officers and agents were deployed in Washington, D.C. as part of law enforcement's surge, resulting in 23 arrests.
On another matter, yesterday, President Trump took bold action to finally restore law and order right here in our nation's capital. The president declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, federalized the D.C. Police Department, and mobilized the D.C. National Guard to end violent crime in our nation's capital. As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant. A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort. This is only the beginning. Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety, and endangers law-abiding Americans.
She went on to say that that the Trump administration is launching a major crackdown on homelessness, saying that homeless individuals in DC will be offered the choice to leave their encampments for a shelter, but those who refuse could face fines or even jail time under existing laws.
Also, completely unrelated topic. Regarding the president's efforts in Washington, D.C., do you have any specifics about how homeless people will be dealt with, where they would be moved to? What does this look like?
I do, yes, and it's an important question, so thank you for raising it. The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals and homeless encampments as well. So we will be using these regulations and code that already exists to clean up our streets, and we've already had great success. Not many of you picked up on this, but the United States Park Police has actually done remarkable work in terms of removing homeless encampments from the city. Since the president signed this executive order in March, 70 homeless encampments have been removed by the U.S. Park Police. There are only 2 homeless encampments remaining in D.C. federal parks under the National Park Service's jurisdiction, and the removal of those 2 remaining camps is scheduled for this week. So the U.S. Park Police will be leading this effort alongside MPD.
Folks, homelessness is not a crime, and yet the Trump administration is criminalizing homelessness nonetheless. Today, Trump said that he is considering allowing a quote major lawsuit against Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to proceed, criticizing Powell over the multi-billion-dollar Fed headquarters renovation that Trump claims only should have cost about $50 million. California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a stark warning to Donald Trump about redistricting efforts today, saying that Donald Trump, the lowest president polling in recent history, this is your second to last warning. Stand down now, or California will counterstrike legally to destroy your illegal crooked maps in red states. Former Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, who lost in 2024, will be running for United States Senate in 2026, a major pickup opportunity for Democrats. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton asked a state district court in Tarrant County to confine Beto O'Rourke over fundraising tied to redistricting fights and the move to revoke the nonprofit registration of O'Rourke's group, Powered by People. The Republican-led Texas Senate passed the plan to redraw the congressional maps today, but the measure is still blocked because Texas Democrats in the House of Representatives have not returned to the states. An attorney for a Venezuelan detainee reported widespread respiratory illnesses, possibly COVID, in the Alligator Alcatraz, Florida detention center describing it, quote, a peach tree for the disease. A U.S. appellate court today ruled 2-1 that the Trump administration's DOJ can access sensitive federal data, including social security numbers and citizenship status. Folks, that's all the news right now. If you want to support my work, click the button below, subscribe today, send a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas, and I will see you this evening, potentially, if not in the morning, for another report. So take care. Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.